Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. I just want to make sure that everybody can hear me. Okay, so today we're going to be going over iSet and okay, there we go. So you could see me. So today we're going to go over iSet, which is one of our main softwares that's used for configuring the controller. We're going to go over the different controllers that can be configured using iSet, how to use the features, and we're going to also have a demo project of where I'm going to go over how to configure two screens on a single controller, Z5 controller, as well as how to set up like backups and stuff like that. So let me go to the next page. Yeah, so here's our table of contents. I'm going to go over like what is the main purpose of iSet, what are some of the features. We're going to do a software demo, and then at the end there'll be time for Q&A if anybody has any questions. So, like I said, iSet is primarily a way for end users to configure their LED walls or screens in a very simple way, um, directly from your computer. You can set up the input signals, receiver card mapping, seam correction, color, color management, color adjustment. Um, oh, it looks like someone joined. I'm going to let them in. Okay, so it looks like someone just joined. Welcome. So, what I was saying is that we're going over iSet today. We're going to do a demonstration and we're going to also go over many of the main features that are available. And then we'll also have time for people to ask questions and get answers. So, as I was mentioning, some of the controllers are supported with iSet, but not all of them, because we're moving towards a more web UI based environment. So that the idea is that you'll be able to access and control the controller and configure it directly from your web browser on your phone, an iPad, iPhone, Android, tablets, anything with a browser. That's kind of the future goal that we're moving towards. Um, we're also going to keep the older softwares like iSet and stuff. But here's like a simple list of some of the controllers that are supported and not supported. For example, the X series, that's including like the X20, the Z series, this, like the Z6, the Z8, stuff like that, as well as the VX. The VX6, VX10, and VX20 are all supported on iSet, but the VX series also has a web UI that you can use as well. Um, and we also have the U series, the Universe series, which is like our upgrade of the X100 Pro, if you're familiar with that. Oh, and somebody else just joined. Let me add them. Okay. So yeah, we also have the cloud players like the A100, the A2K, the A200, and all of those have their own control mechanism, their own software. We call it Player Master. Actually, next week we're going to have another training that I'm going to do where we're going to go over the cloud players, how to put one of the cloud players in the cloud, how to configure it, how to do everything we're going to do today, but for the A series. We also have the ZAT, which is essentially our it's essentially like our more advanced processor that's for doing a lot of highly detailed color management. It can also do ST2110, and it can also do 12-bit color. And then the Acrobat series, the AX, is primarily for home theater. It's really cool in the sense there's like some AI functionality to smooth out stuff. I'm not going to go over that today, but it's pretty cool. Hopefully, we'll do a training for that. I know some people joined late. If anybody has any questions, you can feel free to interrupt me. But we're just going over right now we're going to be going over iSet. We're going to do a demo, and then we're going to also go over we just went over the different controllers that are supported and not supported with iSet. So there's also, this is like when you first open it, after you've created your initial project, you'll see this page. So if you have a controller that's detected, you'll see in this case we have a Z6 Pro, we can see that we have two fiber ports that are being used, 1 and 2. And then on port 1, we see we have 5 receiver cards detected. Port 2, we have 5. And then on fiber port 2, port 11, we can see we only have 3, 3. And in the table below that, below this topology view, we could see each of the individual receiver cards. So you could see it says P1-1. That means port 1, receiver card 1. And I'll get more into explaining how that works later. But here we also have the firmware version, the temperature of the receiver card, if there's any cable errors, and how long the receiver card has been on. So it says 2 hours. Are there any questions before I go forward, or can feel free to ask any questions? It's totally fine. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next page. So this is after you've, first what you want to do is you want to detect that everything is connected. That you see if you have five panels, you should see 5 receiver cards most of the time, unless you're using a custom setup. So you should see the 5 receiver cards. Then once you've determined that everything's been set up and that it's all detected, then you're going to go to the programming page, which is the next tab here. And on here, we can see our processors. We can also see down here in this input source drawer, we can see the input signals that are detected. You can see the HDMI, DP, HDMI DP, DVI, etc. And then in here, our main canvas, you can see we have it set to 8192 by 4320. And you can drag the input signals directly into your canvas, scale them, crop them, resize them. And on the right here, we have the ability to change you could set like a test pattern. You can set the output bit depth, like the 8-bit, 10-bit, change the color space. We'll go more into that later during the software demo, but I just wanted to kind of briefly mention that before, that we can also set the EDID from here as well. Are there any questions before I move on? Okay, I'm just going to move on. So then the third tab usually is the layout tab. And this is where you can see, again, your processors, but you can also do the mapping. So in this example, we have 2 ports being used. We have port 1 and port 9. And on here, we could see the capacity. So we have 5 receiver cards set here, and they are all, for port 1, it's used up 87% of the capacity. And on port 2, we're not using anything, but on port 9, we're using 3 more receiver cards. So we've mapped 8 rows in column 1, essentially. And this is the mapping from the front side of your screen. So if you're looking at it from the front, the wiring is the top left, down 1 to all the way down 8 times. And on the, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. On the right side here, you can see it says OSD. You may or may not know what that is already, but I'm going to go over it because it's a very, very useful tool. If you have a receiver card that supports it, not all of our receiver cards support the feature, but the vast majority of them do, except some of the older ones. The OSD allows you to directly, when you like click on one of the ports and then you click on one of the cabinets, if you have this checked, you'll see the number on the screen. So it'll say 1 or 2 or 3. So that way you'll know the exact ordering to draw the mapping. And it's very useful. Real-time mapping, if you use this, which is the second checkbox, it will automatically update in real time. When you change the mapping here, it will change it on the screen. But one of the key things is that it won't save it. So it won't save the mapping. So what that means is essentially if you set this here and then you restart everything, you power cycle the controller, it's going to go back to the previous setting that you had saved. So if you want to save it and have it restore the same setup upon restarting, you have to click save. It's pretty simple. And when you first open this, usually what you want to do is just click read the mapping, and if there is one, you may need to change it. So we'll go more into that later. So as you saw here, when you first open it, these three tabs are the only ones you'll see: device info, programming, and layout. We have some additional features that are in the settings menu that you'll have to enable, which I will show you later, which is, for example, the advanced soft edge. Um, I have a question for anybody who wants to try. Let's see if anyone wants to try. So does anybody know what soft edge is? I'm just wondering. Yeah, so it's like allows you to correct the seams between each of your panels or the modules. So sometimes you'll have like two cabinets that are like this, but then there's a little space in between, right? And in between that space, it could be just a black line, right? So the seam correction feature, the soft edge feature, is primarily for situations where you want to have a complete, no black lines in between. The former kind of the old method of doing this was that you would have to physically remove the module and push them closer together. And this feature allows you to fix it without always having to physically remove a module or remove a cabinet and adjust it physically. Does that make sense? So, yeah. Yeah, so that's the main kind of idea with the soft edge. Um, so yeah, I'll go more into this later when I do the software demo, but I wanted to just kind of go a little bit short, go over it shortly. The main another thing here is the monitoring features. So here you can see in the right side we have this is just some of them. You can monitor the voltage. Oh, someone just joined. Let me add them. Okay, so someone just joined. Welcome. We're going over the different features in iSet, and then we're gonna do a software demo. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the meantime. But yeah, so what I was saying is that this is some of the monitoring features in iSet. So you can monitor, for example, the cable errors, and what this allows you to do is determine if there's individual issues between cabinets, which I'll show later. It's actually a very, very useful tool. And if you're going to work with LED screens with our devices, you should definitely know how to use it because it'll help you a lot in the long run. We also have input monitoring where you'll be able to see if an input signal has been disconnected or it's faulty, something like that. So, any questions so far? Okay, I will go forward. So, here's another thing is we have a capacity calculator built into iSet. And this is really useful because it allows you to kind of pre-plan your design. Oh, someone else is joining. Let me add them. Okay. Oh, okay, welcome. Okay. So, like I was saying, we're going over the capacity calculator now, and this allows you to kind of pre-plan your wall, your LED wall. So just as an example here, if you have a cabinet that is a size of 128 by 128, and you're going to do 60 hertz at 8-bit, and your output is only 1 gig, 1G, you can see that a single cabinet is going to use 2.8% of one port. This is not the capacity of the entire controller. This is a single RJ45 port. So what you can do with this is you can determine very easily, um, you know, if you have an idea of if you already know what your resolution is going to be, what your cabinet is, you can plug in the cabinet size here and then just play around with this. You could see, oh, okay, if I do one column, it'll give me 2%. So you could determine how many ports you need and how many cabinets you can use per port. Yeah, what's up? Yeah. So yeah, so if you use more capacity, for example, if you use a higher hertz like 120, you're going to have less capacity than if you're using 60. Yeah. And if you're using 10-bit, it's going to use more than if you're using 8-bit. And also if you're using 12-bit. And if you're using, for example, 5 gig or 5G cards like the HC5 or the, what is it? There's another one, the USB-C one. But th those will work with 5G and that will use significantly less. So for example, I believe that one single 5G port can do, I think it's 1920. You can do like one full HD and still have a little more. We can check actually when we get to the demo. Um, but yeah, so 5G is a lot more as well. Um, yeah. Are there any questions, anybody? Okay, I'll move forward. So now we're gonna do a little demo. Um, I'm gonna go over kind of like how I would set up two screens using a Z5. So I have iSet here. So I have a Z5 actually right next to me on the left here, and I have a single receiver card connected. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the very beginning. So when you first open the software, you'll see this. I just want to make sure everybody can see my screen. Can everybody see it? Anybody? I think you can. Yeah, you can. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, once you open iSet, you'll see. Actually, let's just start all the way from the beginning. I'm going to close it because I want to give you guys like a real full demo of like what it looks like. So this is what you'll see. You'll see these three buttons. You could either open a project. I have this demo one here. And you could also create a demo project. And in the demo, you can see some of our controllers here and be able to see the different features, which is really useful as well. But I'm going to click New Project. So it's going to detect it because I have it connected. And then I'm going to set the canvas to 4096 by 2160. We could set the FPS here, say 50 hertz, 60, 120, 240. I'm going to set it to 10-bit, and I'm going to call the project iSet demo and click create. And then when you see, like I was saying during the presentation, the first thing you'll see here is the device info tab. So if you click detect, it will detect the controllers that you have and the receiver cards. This is exactly what I was saying earlier. So unless anybody has any questions, I'm going to move to the next part. Um, so then what I usually do is I'll go to the layout and then we start mapping our layout. But first I'm going to move the input to the top left so we can see this square here. And then we're going to check all of our settings. So we can see the brightness here under programming, under output, color. So we set it to 100% brightness. And then we're going to turn on the precise color and we're going to set it to a standard. We could see we have Rec 709, DCI-P3, and we're going to do Rec 709. And what this is, I don't know if you guys know. If we know, we'll just go over it again. It'll be, a redo. But basically what this is that this triangle is saying that these are the colors that we are going to have available on our screen. So if we say we change it to Rec 2020, you could see this triangle is significantly larger. So we have access to more colors within this color space compared to the Rec 709, right? And uh, not all screens can do the full color space of Rec 2020. So that's something that you have to find out from your screen manufacturer is like whether or not your screen can handle it. So we're going to set it to Rec 709. And then we're going to keep it at 60 hertz, 10-bit. And we're going to set the So actually, before I go forward, let's uh, let's see if anybody has any questions. Again, I just want to make sure over about the color space stuff. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. Um, yeah, so under video sync, this will allow you to essentially sync the controller to an input or to a genlock generator. So if you have like a genlock, you can use it with a camera and have it synchronize like the same settings, the frame rate and everything between all the, between the camera, the controller, and the screen. If you use internal, this is allows you to directly set a frame rate that you want. You could also type it in, like say 22. Actually, I think let's see. Yeah, so you can only use the ones that are here, like 23.98, 24. And yeah, so that's what that is. But we're gonna set the input and sync it to the HDMI signal that I have, which you can see here. And we could see that the input is 3840 by 2160 at 59.94. Um, we're not going to go over these today, but we'll go over this super short. The pattern tab is pretty obvious. It just lets you set test patterns like RGB, bars, do a custom color, stuff like that. Should be pretty obvious. We can also do cropping here if you want to crop the input signal um, as well. So now that we've configured the programming portion, like just the the initial setup, we're gonna now go over the mapping. So on the third tab here, we have the layout. And here, this is where we get to essentially set up the wiring of our receiver card. So what I'm gonna do here, did somebody have any question? I heard someone. Okay. Um, So what we're going to do is we see, even though I only have one receiver card here, we're going to still do it just for the demo. So um, before we do that, though, we're going to open up the capacity calculator. And I'm going to use this size 384 by 216. So we're going to open the capacity calculator. We're going to set it to 10-bit. We're going to say 384 by 216. So we can see immediately that a single cabinet, because we say one row, one column, that's one cabinet, is going to take up 17.3, percent of a single port. So that means we can only do about 5, either in the columns or in the row. So if we do like that, right, 86.61, 84. So it's better to do it as the columns. So essentially, what this allows you to do is you can quickly determine, okay, I can only use five cabinets per port. So if you know the full resolution of your screen, you can just do the math and find out very quickly how to do the layout. You could also just practice here. So we'll start drawing it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then down here in the port list, we can see now we're using 87% of port 1. So before I go forward, I just want to make sure that everybody understands this because it's very important that you understand this. Yeah. Anyone have any questions or comments? Okay, I'll just move forward. So then if I were to continue doing this 8x8 grid for this first screen, we're going to Control C, paste. We first click port 2, paste, and then line it up, and then click port 3, paste, port 4, port 5, yep, and then port 6. Oh, whoops, we didn't line that one up perfectly. Port 7, port 8. So we have 8 columns, right? And 5 rows. So now we wanted to do 8 by 8 though, so we're going to do another 3. So do 3 on port 9. So 1, and then go to port 10, port 11. Oops, there we go. Port 12, port 13, port 14, port 15, and then port 16. So now we have 1 through 8, and then down 1 through 8. So this would be the layout for our screen. Now, um, one thing you may or may not know is that if you drag over all of these, you can group them if you press Control G. And now if we select, well, actually, hold on. Oh, someone else is joining. Let me add you. Okay. Could you mute your microphone? It was very loud. Um, okay, thank you. Okay, no problem. Hello? Yes. About the what? Oh, the backup. Yeah. Yeah, I will explain it. I wanted to have two controllers, but I only have one right here, but I can explain how to set up the backup as well. But I want to do the mapping first, and then we'll just set up the pip, the layers, and then we'll go back and do that. Um, or we could do it right now, but we just don't have enough ports. But normally what you would do is, so let's say we would find an empty port. You just right click it and click set as redundancy 4, and then you would say, like, let's say port 1. And now if you have the daisy chaining of the cabling, if one of the ports fails, it will use the other port. Does it make sense? And you can cancel it by right clicking and clicking cancel redundancy. And you can also just click here. Does that make sense? Cool. Um, so now we're gonna also go and we're gonna add another screen here. So let's just say we have like a 4x4 or a 2x2. Let's do a simple one. So we could do 4 cabinets like that on port 17. And then if we wanted to, we could say port 18 is redundant for port 17, right? So then we could daisy chain these two. And then if port 1 fails, it'll go over to port 2. Or sorry, port 17 fails, then we go over to port 18. Um, So that's the general idea. Once you've done the mapping, then you need to click this button here, save. So we'll just click it, save. So in this one, it says we don't have any receiver cards. We're just going to save it anyways. It's fine. So it's going to save this mapping to the processor. And then we're going to do the inputs. I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so saved successful. Okay, so now if this is exactly how you want it to be, one thing we can do very quickly is if you drag and draw, like select all of them, this is a super useful way of doing it. If you see here, it says cabinet selected 64, you can see the resolution 3072 by 1728. So we're going to go back to programming. And normally, if I had another signal here, we would be able to set the EDID and then create a custom one like this one. But because I only have a single input, it's a little bit more difficult here. I can do it in the demo mode if you guys want to see. So if we click on the input, though, we can then go to layer. We see it's 3072. And then what was it? I saved this earlier. 3072 by 1728. 1728. And now what this is that this signal right now, because we haven't set the EDID, it's gonna scale it down. But if the input signal was also the same as this 3072 by 1728, it would be pixel to pixel. And I'll show that in the demo before we move on. So that's screen one. And then screen two, which could be on another part of the building. If we highlight this, we see it's 768 by 432. So let's take, well, we can't. Okay, here we go. We'll just pretend. So 768, and then it was, let's check, 432. Yeah. Hello? Yeah. Oh, you mean the brightness? Yeah, you can do yeah, so we can do the brightness here. The color temperature is well, so the t color temperature is applied to the entire controller, but the brightness, for example, if you go to group settings here and click settings, you could say group one and just click here and say it's like port one, two, three, four, just as an example. We can change it, but not for individual ports. Um, so we can change, for example, here, adjust by color temperature, and then we can modify it here. But that's going to be for the entire controller. Hmm. Oh, so yeah. No, no. So there is another feature to do the color management, but not on this page. I'll show you later. Um, yeah, I'll show you in the next part. There is a way to change the color on like a per cabinet basis, for example. Um, but I just wanted to finish going over this part. So this is how you would set up the two screens. If you, oh, someone else is joining. Let's add them. Okay, so, oh, another person. Okay. So you can also, I didn't show this earlier, but if you have your canvas, you right click here. Oh, can we mute? Who is that? I'm gonna mute you. There we go. Okay. So you can also modify the size of your canvas from here. If you right click and click canvas size settings, you can either set one of the presets or custom. I just wanted to show that before we go to the next part. So now that we've saved our mapping, we've set at least, just one backup here. We could see port 18 and 17. And then we've also set up the input and everything. Now I'm going to show you how to do the color adjustment stuff that you were asking about. So if you go to menu here, you click settings. It's kind of hidden in the preferences here. So I'm going to enable all of it. So we have soft edge, the color adjustment, which is the one you were mentioning, and then we also have the health monitoring. So if we first, I'm going to go over the soft edge just because this is normally the way you would do it, is you would fix the seams first before anything else. Um, so actually, I want to ask a question and see if anybody knows. So who knows the difference between soft edge and advanced soft edge? Does anybody know? Or maybe you want to guess? Okay. Well, the soft edge and the advanced soft edge, the main difference is that the soft edge will modify the calibration data, and the advanced soft edge does not modify the calibration data on your screen. And so, yeah, you can essentially make the changes to the seams and not affect that. So the first thing you would do is you go to Advanced Soft Edge, you click Read, and then because I only have a single controller, it's not going to look very good. But normally you would be able to, let's just do it here. Open up the demo. modes that you can see. We'll click read, and then you would click seam state 1, put it in seam mode, and now we can click the individual cabinets. And what this allows you to do is if you have spacing between this cabinet and this cabinet, the line here, we could either increase the brightness or decrease it, or you can also do a gradient where, let's say on the left side of the edge, there we want to have more brightness, and then it's going to go darker on the right side. And once you've made all the changes that you want to make, you can also do show module, and you could do the individual modules as well. You have to know the size of the module though. And then once you've made your adjustments, you can click save, save successful, and then you're done. Any questions about the seam correction or anything? Okay. Hmm? Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. If you use, so we have the CCM 6000 calibration camera. If you use that, it will do seam correction and color calibration at the same time as well. So but this is how you would do it manually, essentially. If so, like if you don't have the camera, you can still do it manually, but it will just take a little bit longer. Um, so the color adjustment is the thing that you were asking about. That's this next tab here. And if you, first thing is just read back. Oh, someone else joined. Let me add them. Okay, cool. So when you go to color adjustment here, you can click on an individual cabinet, for example, and you can set a test pattern on just that cabinet, or you can also set the visual adjustment for that cabinet. So you could set the luminance, the RGB values. So if you see here, I'll show you like let's lower the green, and then in the red, we'll increase the green. And if you see the difference in the triangle, what this is saying is that when you get red, we're going to add more green into that red because not every color is purely red, right? Like not every color is purely what we think it is with our eyes, right? Like to you, to normal people, it looks like it's a purple, right? Or it looks green. But in reality, there's multiple shades and gradients of what green is and what red is. And in fact, there is red in green and green in red. And that's how we get the mixtures of colors. And this is where you can modify that on either an individual cabinet receiver card basis, or you could also save it on everything. Any questions about the visual adjustment? Okay, I will move forward. The advanced adjustment, this is very similar, but it allows you to do things like you can also change the values here. Like you can see the original color space, and then you can have it kind of map to like a target color space. Um, but yeah, so that's what this is. It allows you to do the individual cabinet per cabinet, or you can also do several cabinets at the same time and adjust the colors. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question from earlier or? Hmm. Yeah. So this one, the idea, the way you would do it per port is if we go back to the layout, right? So we could see these, this is per port, right? So this is port one. So then what you would do is you'd say one, oh, we got to read back first. So you'd say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is port one. You see what I mean? Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. But you can still get the same result though. You just have to select them. Yeah. And then the yeah, so that's that. And then we can also, and one thing I forgot to mention is that if we also support some of the color like color meters. So if you have like a USB color meter and you want to measure the colors of your screen, all you have to do is just go to the color adjustment, click original color space setting, click measure. And I don't have one plugged in, but if I did, it would measure each of the colors, the luminance values, etc., of the different colors on the screen. And that way you can get the color space that's like the real color space that's on the screen that's available. So before I go to the next part, the health monitoring, I just want to make sure there's no questions or more questions or anything. Okay, so the next thing is the health monitoring, and this is, in my opinion, by far one of the most useful things. Um, so here you can enable it. So we're going to go back to the settings and we're going to go to the health settings and we're going to enable the cable error alerts, fan monitor. I'm just going to enable like everything. We're also going to enable email notifications. Now, in order to do the email notifications, you do need to have an email SMTP server set up. You also need to have iSet running on your computer for it to be able to notify you of and send the emails. And it also needs to obviously have access to the internet. But so I've enabled all of the different settings. So now we have all these buttons. So first you click Start Monitoring. And if we go to this first button, we can see video input source monitoring. We can't do it while it's running, so I'm going to turn it off. And then you click settings. And this is super, super useful because we can enable, let's say on the HDMI, if we just do the HDMI 2, what this is going to do is it's only going to detect like if the signal's lost. But if we also do input format, we can detect if the setting input was changed. So let's say you have an input signal that you want it to be, 4K, and somehow it got changed to full HD to 1920 by 1080. It will detect that, and then if you set up the email alerts, it'll automatically email you and tell you, hey, something's wrong. So you'll immediately be able to know what the issue is and fix it. That's super, super useful. So you can see here, because we're in a demo mode, it's just going to say unknown. But if I change it, it'll show you like expected and then actual. So if the actual is going to be like, what is the actual resolution? And this is the one that you set in the settings here. So we set it to detect 1920. Does that make sense to everybody? Um, so the next one is, yeah, continue. Okay, I'll just go forward. The next one is the temperature. So you can see on a per port basis the receiver cards on that port, and we'll get an alert if we turn on the demo modes monitoring. You'll see, oh, there's an error detected, and then it blinks here. It shows which ones. So we could see the individual temperatures here. So you could see of each receiver card. And then if we go to the humidity, we can also see the humidity of each receiver card. So we can see that this first row, there's no issues. And if you see it's 86% because, like I was showing earlier, if we go here, we can set the individual humidity value here of what we want it to alert us at. Next is the cable monitoring. And what this is useful for is if you could think of it like this. This is a cabinet 1, cabinet 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you have an error on cabinet 2 on port 1 and it's red, you'll know, okay, there's an issue with the connection between port one and or cable cabinet one and cabinet two. And if there's no errors on cabinet one, two, and three, but then you see one on four and five, then you know there's an issue between three and four. Does that make sense? So that's the main kind of benefit to that. Um, the next one is the voltage. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So if you okay, so yeah, you're saying that if you have an issue with cabinet two, if yeah, if that's the way you've wired it, yeah, because then you would know the signal isn't going, it's blocked here, right? So then all the other ones down the chain will also have an issue. So yeah, but again, it depends on how you've done your wiring. You know, I mean, maybe your wiring is horizontal here, right? I just did the vertical. Um, yeah. So yeah, I mean, this is kind of just how you could set that up. And then if we go to voltage, this is going to alert you if the voltage coming to the receiver card into the hub board is between the range that you set. So again, it's right here, like 5 to 12 volts. If it's 4 volts or if it's 13 volts, if it's outside of that range, you're going to get a warning. And then the P um this one is only for the so this is only for the receiver card to the hub and to the hub board, yeah. And the power supply one, this is the next one. So some of the power supplies have the functionality to allow you to kind of it will send its own signal to the hub board. Like the power supply itself, some of them have the functionality to say, hey, there's an issue or there's no issue. And that's what this is for. Not every, yeah, yeah. And also the power supply also needs its own some of them don't have this feature, so yeah. Yeah. I'm not sure. I know that some do though, but I think just have to read the specs. Um, but then the last thing is the fan status. This is so if your cabinet has like a built-in fan, you can check the fan speed here as well, of how it's moving. Um, so we're almost done for today, but I want to go over just two more things, simple things. So I'm going to get out of the monitoring. And what I'm going to go over is how to save your project. So if you're on site and you have a project and you want to share it with the end user, or if you're an integrator, or you just want to save it for yourself, oh, someone else joined. Oh, I don't know what happened. They joined and then it disappeared. But yeah, so you just click the little floppy disk icon, click save, and you could just save it as a project. And then another important thing is here, you can actually save the project directly on the processor. So this is something that I see a lot of people don't do, is they don't save the project on the processor, but you should, because this means that if you save it, um, you can just save it directly to the processor and then read back with the second button here. And that will be super easy for you. So yeah, that's basically everything for today. Um, any questions about anything, projects you're working on, stuff like that? Cool, cool. So, if you want to contact me or our support team, this is the contact info. I'll also be uploading, I think we're going to upload this recording on our YouTube channel. If you just search for Colorlight, or I believe this QR code here will also allow you to do that. So yeah, if you have any questions in the future, you can email me or the support and we'll help you out. So yeah, no problem. Well, you guys have a great day. Bye.